Welcome to the Intel Hub News Brief, uncovering the cold hard truth that the corporate media just can't handle. A service of the IntelHub.com. Now, here's Joe Joseph from Freedom Link Radio.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Intel Hub News Brief for Thursday, January 12th, 2012. Now everybody sure has the National Defense Authorization Act fresh in their heads. They know about the Patriot Act, and they know about the Military Commissions Act, about how Homeland Security recently has been reported to be listening in on media, on blogs, places like the Drudge Report, the Intel Hub, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, they're watching you. What they don't want you to know, though, is that this has happened before in our nation's history. And I just didn't till recently realize how duped I was really. I was just absolutely had the wool pulled over my eyes. And I'm going to talk to you tonight about Abraham Lincoln and just how not the great emancipator and hero that everybody makes him out to be, how much he is not that. So let's get into this. A lot of people don't understand that prior to the commencement of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln was asked whether or not, if you could stop slavery, or if you could stop civil war in this country, would you allow slavery to continue? And his answer was yes. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, he was a white supremacist. I suggest folks read the book Abraham Lincoln Unmasked, which is a great book, absolutely fantastic book, written by Thomas DiLorenzo, and he also writes another book called The Real Lincoln. Thomas J. DiLorenzo, you can see him a lot on LouRockwell.com, as well as Freedom Watch with Judge Andrew Napolitano. But he highlights certain things in the book that really parallel what we're seeing today. Things that the mainstream media, the elitists, the endowments, all of these people don't want you to know about. And I'm going to bring this up a timeline so you understand. Now, some of the things that Lincoln did during his presidency was he jailed over 10,000 people without due process for speaking out against the government. He closed down over 300 opposition newspapers, or newspapers that were speaking out against the Lincoln administration, closed down 300 of them. Imprisoned even the mayor of Baltimore. So there was free speech. The only problem is they were in prison camps, because all these people, they were speaking out just inside a prison camp. So there was indefinite detention from Lincoln during the Civil War. You also don't know, but Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution defines treason as waging war against the states. Now, when we entered into this union at the end of the Revolutionary War, we entered into this union voluntarily. The states voluntarily entered into the union. Not by force. We used force to break free from Britain. The Founding Fathers didn't want people to be forced into this union. They wanted them to agree. However, Lincoln decided that he's going to keep everybody in by force, waging war against the states. Clearly a treasonous act. People like Jefferson Davis have been vilified throughout history because historians have rewritten history to accommodate this view, this hero worship of Lincoln. They've really, in a sense, become what Thomas DiLorenzo says, gatekeepers. And they don't want you to know the truth about what happened during the Civil War. It's very important, folks, that we see the history. This is why it's so important to dig whenever you see things like 9/11 go down, or very strange events. Typically, it's not what they're telling you it is. You have to dig. And in this case, in Lincoln's case, He is not the president that we learn in our history books or in school or at museums. When you visit his memorial, he isn't the hero that the people in power would make you think he is. And the reason why is because this power grab has been tried before in this country. And then, over time, when you get to the turn of the century, you have foundations like the Guggenheim Foundation, the Rockefeller, the Carnegie Foundation. These foundations colluded with one another at the turn of the century and on forward to take over the education system and to design the way that history is taught in our public schools and in our colleges. They wanted to rewrite history in order to advance this agenda that you see here, which really never stopped after Lincoln. There was always this slow progression, and then they'd be knocked back. And they advance a little further, and they get knocked back. So they said, hey, you know what we need to do? What we need to do is to rewrite history, and this is going to take time. And they know this. And this is why this elitist cabal, this is why they are patient. They have to be. Because a plan like this takes time. So I suggest that people look up Norman Dodd. Norman Dodd was a special investigator in the 1950s who was the Ken Starr. If people remember what happened with President Bill Clinton, he was an independent counsel investigating the endowments. And what he unearthed was absolutely mind-blowing. So much so that his assistant that he sent to go and read the meeting minutes from these meetings. And these elitists, they held nothing back. They didn't think there was anything wrong with what they were doing, so they weren't hiding anything. And so she goes and she reads this stuff. Now, mind you, she was an attorney. She goes and reads this stuff, comes back, can't believe what she sees. It ruins her. It frightens her. It's just absolutely sickens her to the point where she can't hold a job again. It's affected her that mentally. Just so profoundly that she just cannot comprehend it. That's why, folks, you need to dig. Dig and find this stuff. You're not crazy for saying that 9/11, it didn't happen the way they said it did. You're not crazy for being pissed off at the National Defense Authorization Act. You're not crazy for being pissed off at the Patriot Act. They want you to think you're a kook. They want you to think you're crazy because they can't defend it. You know, Ron Paul just said it the other day to I think it was a Fox News interview when he was said, wow, why do people call you kook about your foreign policy? Because they can't defend it. They can't come up with an intelligent argument against it. They know that their time is limited. And it sickens me that they're doing this stuff just so out in the open and flaunting it in our face. And the moment we speak up, or the moment people protest, they get knocked back. But I'm telling you, folks, we're getting there. We're getting close. We're going to break the back of these elitists. I promise you that. I want to talk about one other issue, and this is the issue of the Marines. Desecration of Taliban corpses. Now, a lot of you might say, oh, yeah, you stinking Marines. Yeah, you're pissed all over them. And, yeah, it is. It's wrong. Absolutely and totally wrong. But so is war, let alone a legal war. And let me tell you, folks, as a vet, you have to look at this in a different way. When you go to boot camp, you get trained and you go over there, you lose your humanity. You lose it. It's taken away from you. Do you think that these men that did this to these corpses, do you think they were born this way? Did you think they were brought up this way? No. This is conditioning that happens when you go through training. And then you get sent over to a place where you're not even supposed to be and get told to do these putrid, illegal, unhuman acts. You're ordered to do so. And then you have the audacity to hold these people accountable when they do something like this? We've got scores of active duty military and Marines committing suicide because they can't handle what's going on. And you have the nerve, Hillary Clinton, Mr. Panetta, to speak out against it's utterly deplorable. Well, yeah, but how did it happen? How did they get into that mindset? War is such a horrible thing, and it should be taken very seriously when we go and wage war. And we do not do it legally. That's why the Founding Fathers put this in the Constitution, that to declare war, you have to get a declaration of war through Congress. And it's going to take a 2/3 majority. Why? Because war is evil. Because war is one of the worst things that has ever happened to humanity. And when you go to war to win. Not go to war to fight for decades and not gain any ground. And so these Marines, who I'm sure, if you look into it, I'll bet you more than one of these guys have actually made more than one tour or deployment over to Afghanistan. I'll bet you that that's the case. And the tours are getting longer, and the time between tours are getting shorter. When in actuality, if we went in there as if it was a true war and didn't discriminate over what you bombed or who you killed, and you just went there with the will to win, and that being the objective, then this wouldn't be happening right now, because we would have been done 8 years ago. So folks, understand that these men and women are under horrible, horrendous stress. And when they come home, the help sucks. They get no help. And if they do, they've got to wait for it or stand in line. When they should be at the top of the list whenever it comes to needing a thing for what they sacrificed. Even if what they fight for right now has nothing to do with liberty and freedom. And I hope a lot of active duty military are listening to this, because what you're doing right now is illegal. And you don't have to consent. And you don't have to obey illegal and unlawful orders. But it makes it very difficult, doesn't it, when you're over in Afghanistan? Because where do you go? What do you do? It's a very hard situation. And my heart goes out to every single active duty military person. And my heart goes out to every single vet. Especially the ones that have come back maimed or disabled as a result of one of these illegal wars. Folks, look at what is going on in this country. And know that this is history repeating itself. That during the Civil War, this has happened. And unless we put a stop to it, there are going to be people in prison camps. And not because of some terrorist attack or homegrown terrorism, but something you write, something you say. Not because of something horrible that you do, but just for standing up for your rights. So folks, please, get off your asses and let's get to work. And let's take our country back. Tune in to Freedom Link Radio Tuesday and Thursday from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. and Sunday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you, God bless you, and have a great night.